We are going to continue today with the subjection of woman by John Stuart Mill. Uh, we had studied about John Stuart Mill, and we had studied about the primary philosophies and concepts that have influenced Mill while writing this essay. So we studied about classical liberalism, utilitarianism, and we had studied about feminism. Now we are going into the concept, the ideas of the book, what the book is about, the summary of the book. Now I have divided this PPT, I've divided my lecture according to the arguments that Mill makes in his uh, in the book, the subjection of woman. So the first we are going to speak about the social argument that Mill makes. So the social argument that Mill makes is happens to deal with women as social beings. Who are social beings? As people, as beings, living things who live in a society with other living things and have a function in society. Mill attacks the argument that women are naturally worse at things than men and should therefore be discouraged or forbidden to do so. He says that we simply do not know what women are capable of because we never let them try. One cannot make an authoritative statement without evidence. So this is the first and the most rudimentary basic argument that John Stuart Mill is making, which is that we always keep on saying that women are not able to do this or that, or they are not able to study because they are not intelligent. They should not be allowed to do politics. They should be not allowed to run a business, write a novel, because they can't do so. The question that Mill asks the patriarchal institutions of the society is that if they have ever allowed the woman to see if she is really able to do so or she's unable to do so, or if she's a failure. So Mill brings out the hypocrisy in the Victorian society or in society all over the world. Now this is something, it is written by an Englishman, refers to the British society, but this is something which refers to all societies around the world, even our own society that we live in. So the hypocrisy that Mill brings out is the fact that you are dominating and marginalizing someone on account that the person is not viable enough to do a certain thing, but you have never even sought proof of that. There is no proof of that, or you have never even sought to find out if the person is really unable to do so or is a success in doing that. And so he brings out the creation of discourse. What is a discourse? Discourse are just rules and regulations by which a culture and a society live their life. I am not going into the uh, difficult philosophical conceptual ideas about Bakhtinian discourse or Foucauldian discourse, or how Foucault says power gets transmitted through discourse. So I'm not going into that. I'm just keeping it very simplistic, which is a discourse are rules and regulations. It is discourse means knowledge. So it is knowledge. What is knowledge? Knowledge is rule and regulation by which we are supposed to live our lives in a society, or by which life should be lived in a society. So Mill attacks the discourse that women are unworthy of doing work because they are a failure. And he brings out that there is no logical proof or reason behind the creation of this discourse. The anxiety of mankind to intervene on behalf of nature is altogether unnecessary solitude. What woman by nature cannot do, it is quite superfluous to forbid them from doing. So this is a quote from the essay. It is not an essay, it is a book actually. It is called a treatise, Treatice. Treatise are books which deal about social things, cultural social things. So this is again a hit, a sarcastic hit at patriarchy. What Mill is trying to express in this sentence is that, is it not very superfluous? Is it not very ironic? Is it not very stupid of the men to object to the woman doing something which they have already said they can't do. So let us say, like writing a novel, the men have already established a discourse which says that the woman cannot write a novel because, well, she's not intelligent enough to write a novel. So the point that Mill is actually making is that, okay, you have already made the discourse that then women are not, that women cannot do it, then why are you prohibiting them? There is no need to prohibit them, because you yourself have said so, that women can't do it. So he is bringing out the dichotomy, he is bringing out the lies from the discourse, that even the men know that the woman is able to write a novel, or is able to do everything that the man in the society or that patriarchy prohibits them from doing. And so the discourse that they have created, they themselves know that the discourse is faulty. It is a hypocritical one. It is not a real representation. So this is a social argument, that women are social living beings who have all the mental, physical, and psychological faculties that a male has, that a man has, and she must be allowed to express it. And he attacks the reasons why patriarchy has not allowed to express the woman. And he goes on to say, so I'm summing this up in a nutshell. So he goes on to say that so he says two things. First, how can you know that the woman cannot do a thing by not even letting them try? And second, if you know that they will never be able to do so, then why are you stopping them? Why are you objecting? You know they will not be able to do so. So this is the point that Mill makes. Sorry. The second is the psychological argument. I deny that anyone knows or can know the nature of the two sexes, as long as they have only been seen in the present relation to one another. Until conditions of equality exist, no one can possibly assess the natural difference between women and men, distorted as they have been. What is natural to the two sexes can only be found by allowing both to develop and use their faculties freely. So here he brings forward again the discourse which says that the women are weak, emotional, docile means submissive. They can be dominated easily. Traditionally prejudiced. Men are very scientific and hence they are not prejudiced. So if a cat crosses the road, it is the woman who will be prejudiced and not want to cross the road because she's a woman. Whereas the man would not take notice of these things because he's very scientific minded and he knows that superstitions have no value. Now the point that Mill makes is that how has patriarchy come to this realization? Because any realization that you come to without a sense of equality is again a hypocritical and a wrong creation of discourse. And that is what Mill brings out here. Mill tells us that the only way that patriarchy can ever be able to really classify the psychological condition of the woman is when women and men are given equal rights and equal abilities and the faculty to equally indulge in whatever that they want to do. They are given an agency of their own and individuality of their own. As long as this equality is not given, again, the discourse about the psychological nature of the woman is a lie. It is a hypocritic information which has no value. Then he comes to the legal and the economic argument. Now we discussed yesterday that how the base of the concepts that Mill speaks of is the classical liberalism, which says that a person will only have individual freedom when the person has economic freedom. And women in those times had no economic freedom. They could not get their father's property. They could not get their husband's property. They could not own a business. They could not uh, keep money in the bank, so on and so forth. And so Mill is bringing out the individuality argument. Mill is bringing out the argument that you say that the women are not individuals because they have no individuality. They do not have Mill brings the reason of this out. Mill tells us that the reason that they are not individual is because patriarchy has tried to make them so. Patriarchy has not given them economic and legal rights, and as a result has not allowed to express themselves as individuals. Mill attacks marriage laws, which likens to slavery of women. Now, every woman, every wife in the house, well, when the only objective of the woman of the house is cleaning, giving birth to child and children, sewing, cooking, well, is there any difference between a slave and this woman? No. And that is what Mill brings out, that every woman is made into a slave. So you have economic laws which do not give them economic freedom. You have marriage laws which do not give them economic freedom and legal freedom or individual freedom. And then how dare patriarchy argue that the woman is not an individual? They are not an individual because patriarchy has not allowed them to be an individual. Because patriarchy has dominated them and marginalized them to the extent that it has not given them any rights. For example, the right to vote. Who rules what? Why do we vote? To decide who rules the country. Now, the women were never given any right to vote. So, see, it is almost like no one cares what the women feel or believe. That the woman might have a belief of their own, and they might have a political acumen. They might think who can rule the country better. They might have the ability to go and move into politics. No one gives this a chance. So that is the point that Mill is making. So that is the point that Mill is making. Okay, I hope you've understood this much. So again, in a nutshell, what is this legal and economic argument is that patriarchy says women have no individuality. Now he brings the reason of this out and points the finger back at patriarchy by saying they have no individual freedom because you have not allowed them that. And how dare you then create a discourse that they are not individuals? It is your doing. We continue with that. A common justification of the woman's inferior legal status was that they were morally superior to men and therefore being restricted to home, they protected from polluting influence of the public life and could shape the morals of future generation. Again, this is Mill bringing out the hypocrisy in the patriarchal discourse. See how patriarchy has manipulated women into staying quiet and accepting its discourse. We have all seen the classification of woman as a mother figure. So a mother is a person who is morally very sharp, always does the right thing and honest. And we all know that the world is not an honest, beautiful place to live in. It is a very drastic place to live in. And so why has patriarchy not given them their individuality? Look at the manipulation at work here. They say that since the woman is so pure, patriarchy is protecting the woman from moving into society and getting tainted by the horrors of society by robbing them of their individuality. So look at this. Patriarchy is telling you that they are protecting the female figure. Are they protecting the female figure? No, we know better. This is a ploy, this is a play, this is a technique of their dominating the woman. And next we come to suffrage. Suffrage means woman rights of women. The suffrage word starts with the suffragette movement, and suffrage means the rights of women. And Mill was a pioneer of female suffrage, of woman suffrage or woman emancipation. He was not only a theorist, he actively campaigned for women's rights as a minister of parliament and was the president of the National Society for Women's Suffrage. Okay, now there is another great politics here, that we don't see a woman speaking here, we see a man again. So again, the subjection of woman is a representation of the female by a man. So can a man be absolutely free of the politics of patriarchy? Now we are not going to go into that politics here. I'm trying to again keep it as simple as possible for you. So suffrage means struggle for rights, and the female needs to struggle for rights. Mill feels that the unequal societies need to be equal, and the only way that they can be equal is by the female struggling for their rights. They need to indulge in a struggle. They cannot accept this manipulated discourse any long. They cannot keep quiet and stay at their homes. They must struggle against patriarchy and snatch away their rights. And he brings out examples, and he points the finger at Queen Elizabeth, Queen Victoria, the French patriot Joan of Arc, and he questions patriarchy, that if you say that women are so unworthy, Elizabeth, yeah, he's spoken about Elizabeth. So he points out that if women are so unworthy, have no qualities, cannot do anything that could help society, then how have people like Queen Elizabeth, Queen Victoria, Joan of Arc, how have they succeeded in becoming individuals? They are women too. So this is the question that he asks patriarchy. And so we are going to conclude John Stuart Mill's The Subjection of Woman. We are going to conclude by saying that Mill strove for emotional, political, economic, and legal equality for women, and he advised them to adopt the suffrage movement, to struggle for their rights, because otherwise they are not going to get those rights. And this name I was taking this name in the previous class, Mary Wollstonecraft, or Mary Shelley, as she would be called after her marriage to Percy Shelley, A Vindication of the Rights of Woman. It is considered to be one of the very first feminist treatises. It is written by a woman, and Mill kind of builds up on the Vindication of the Rights of Woman. You don't have to know Vindication of the Rights of Woman, but if you know, it's well and good. If you find it difficult, there's no need to go into Vindication of the Rights of Woman. So Mill builds up on this. So Mary Shelley had already built a platform. Mill is trying to build a house on that platform, where he's bringing out the manipulative discourses of patriarchy and questioning patriarchy about the creation of those discourses, and bringing out how through those discourses patriarchy has subjected, and dominated and marginalized women. And he says that the true natural ability of both the sexes, which is male and the female, man and the woman, can only be ascertained when there is equality between the two. I finish my lecture here. I don't think you need to do anything more on the subjection of woman. If you have any queries, again, feel free to contact me.